Hey, I'm Evan Abnett. Welcome to USTASC TV.
And I'm John Glover. How are you?
It's good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about a lot of different things, starting out with self-defense. A lot of people have self-defense questions, especially in regards to protective items that they can carry, such as mace or OC spray. And people really don't know the difference between these different brands or chemical formulations, and there is a difference. And it's important when you're looking for a self-defense spray to get the correct one. So the first thing we're going to talk about is mace. Mace is actually a brand name product. It's made by Mace, and it's formulated from CN gas. And CN gas is basically in a liquid format. What it does is it was pretty much marketed towards women initially, so that when they sprayed it, it would hit the suspect not in a particular area. In other words, you wouldn't necessarily have to shoot the product in their eye, it would rather, you could hit them in the chest and would still turn into a gaseous vaporization, which would affect the person in pain compliance, more or less. It's a inflammatory agent as well, which means that it inflames the mucous membranes. But police don't use mace because it vaporizes when they put people in their police car. So then the police officer tends to get gassed as well as he's transporting a person. It has a large collateral effect. So there's CS gas, which is called military super tear gas. That's also a chemical formulation in a spray format that turns gaseous as well. It is also a inflammatory agent. Last and not least is OC spray. OC spray does two things. It causes involuntary eye closure. So when you spray it in the suspect's eyes, it causes the eyes to shut automatically. It's a physical response to that spray. It also is a severe inflammatory agent, so it will cause pain to the person. I know we've both been sprayed, and I don't know if you want to talk about your spray experience, but
Yeah, I'll talk about my spray experience. Firstly, I was in the Marine Corps, and they put you through the gas chamber, which is CS gas. Mm-hmm. And I can say from personal experience, I would rather do that twice a day for a week before getting pepper sprayed.
Same with me.
Yeah, so yes, it does choke you up a little bit, makes you cry and all of that, but once you put water on it, it flushes out those microcrystals that get into the skin and makes everything itch. So it's a lot easier to decontaminate from that kind of thing. But OC spray, you put water on it, it just spreads it around. It makes it that much more worse. It's just plain awful.
Yeah, OC spray is probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had, outside my personal life, obviously. But probably one of the most worst experiences I've had. It basically feels like your face is on fire and you can't see. Again, it causes involuntary eye closure. So for my money, I would, bank on using an OC spray type substance.
Most definitely.
We sell it in our store. It comes in various packaging. I mean, you can get the police issue, which basically looks like a huge canister of spray. The police use these. It's somewhat ineffective to carry around, obviously, on your person. But we also have the pocket-sized spray, and we also have spray that are different colors for ladies that are interested in those products. But very portable. They have about a 5-year shelf life. After 5 years, you should discard them because it's made from cayenne pepper. So it's cayenne pepper extract. If you were to concentrate cayenne pepper into a propellant spray, this is exactly what it is. It's the same cayenne peppers that's used in food processing, so it's a food grade product. Absolutely terrible.
And it comes in different intensities as well, different levels of Scoville units is what it's measured in. And I've been sprayed with at least 2 different levels, one low and one high, and they both suck just terribly.
Yes.
So
The percentage on the OC spray, whether it's 5 or 10%, it really doesn't matter. It would seem that 10% obviously has more of an effect of 5%, and it does in relation to the detoxification level. So 5% typically lasts about 15 to 20 minutes, 25 minutes max. 10% will affect a person for about 45 minutes. So that's the only aspect of the percentage. Now the Scoville heat units, or SHUs as he's talking about, is usually published on the canister. You're looking at about 1.5 million to 2 million SHUs for it to be effective. Moving forward, tasers versus stun guns, because we get a lot of questions on these. People say, "Oh, I have a taser." Well, no, you have a stun gun. Stun guns and tasers are two completely different devices. A stun gun is a device that has basically two prongs. It doesn't shoot darts out like the taser does, or like the phaser does, or any other type of competition. What it does is it's got two prongs on it, and depending upon how spread apart those prongs are, which usually it's not more than 2 inches from the device, it's only going to create an electrical current between those 2 points. So it's more of a pain compliance device than it is any type of incapacitation device. It will definitely repel somebody, but it won't necessarily incapacitate them. A taser is a little different. A taser shoots 2 darts out, so as you can imagine, while it's shooting these darts, it's shooting them in a V format. One taser prong usually hits the chest, the other taser prong usually hits the leg or points between the chest. Well, those are your 2 contact points. So the space in between those 2 contact points is what's going to transmit the current. So a lot more of the body is affected. And interestingly, the more built someone is, the more effect it has. This is an incapacitation device. It will not. Neither one of these products will knock anybody out. It just doesn't work like that. It doesn't make them unconscious. But a taser is also formulated so that in its microprocessing inside the unit, it actually pulses the electricity at the same rate as nerve impulses travel throughout the body from the brain. So it's basically interrupting those nerve impulses, which is very important. Again, the difference between a taser and a stun gun's got 2 prongs, doesn't fire anything, and it's going to repel your attacker, but it can also be taken away from you, as with any other weapon. A taser is something that projects 2 darts, and it's going to be a lot more effective than a stun gun. And we have an example of it here. This is our stun gun that we carry in the store. It's actually a combination stun gun baton and flashlight, but pushing it back will actually activate the device. You can turn on the flashlight by clicking a button on the top, and then if you want to activate the stun gun, it's going to show red, and you just hit the stun gun activation. And as you can see, obviously it's not going to be pleasant for whoever encounters it. But again, it's just going to, you get that whiff of ozone.
Yeah.
It's just going to repel somebody.
Now, I've never been personally tased before, but I have watched a lot of, no thanks. I have watched a lot of instructional videos, informational videos on how tasers and stun guns work. And like he was saying before, the type of build in someone really does have an effect. I watched a video where this bodybuilder got hit with a taser and he went down like it was nothing. All of his muscles seized up and he just went straight to the ground like anybody else did. But likewise, I saw another video where it was a relatively large man who got hit like under the buttock and in the back area, and it was hitting him, and you could tell because one of his arms was seizing, but that was it. He still was able to walk and things because he didn't have as much muscle mass, or he had more fat mass, so that it was interrupting.
Yeah, usually they're pretty. Sometimes they have a loose connection. In other words, they're wearing baggy clothing or something like that, in which case it's not transmitting the entire electrical charge. So sometimes it does tend to not work as effectively. However, the majority of times, I've seen a taser deployed. I've been tasered twice, not on dates. I used to be a taser instructor, but I've been tasered twice, and both times it's a very painful and shocking experience, no pun intended. But
you intended that pun wholeheartedly.
Kind of. Anyway, so let's talk about everyday weapons. Well, if you don't have a stun gun, taser, or handgun, obviously you have a license to carry it in that case, or any other type of defensive weapon. There are things you can use if someone tries to mug you or sexually assault you. One thing is, you know what a carabiner is utilized for climbing. That's what it's mainly utilized for, but it's also utilized for securing gear or what have you. But a climbing carabiner is typically made out of steel. It looks like a D-ring. We'll put one up on the screen here in a second. It looks like a D-ring, and a lot of people use it to clip their keys to their belts and so on and so forth. But it can also be used as a defensive weapon. I mean, the thing is made out of high-grade steel. They make aluminum ones too, but if you're going to use it for defensive reasons, I would recommend a steel one. And you can use it as basically an impact weapon. Brass knuckles are illegal anywhere in Maryland and illegal in most states, as a matter of fact. So that's a good, impact weapon for if you need it in an emergency, and it will just clip on your keychain.
And you mentioned keychain, like your keys themselves, although they don't have a wide range of use when it comes to self-defense, if you have literally nothing else, then you can jab someone with the small bit of your key, and they're super hard. You jab someone in the ribs, it's going to deter them. It's going to hurt.
Sure.
They're not long, so you don't have a good range. They're not super, they don't like fit around your knuckles as if a carabiner would, or you don't. It's not like a knife where you have a sharp edge. So it's probably the least effective of self-defense things, but it's something that you carry every single day.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
And that brings us to knives and batons. Batons you have to be very careful about because a lot of jurisdictions have laws against carrying batons. They're legal some places, they're illegal other places, especially if they're concealed in your vehicle. You have to be very careful, concealed on your person. And knives too, you also have to be careful of. Only certain types of knives are legal in Maryland, and it depends on your state and your jurisdiction. For instance, stun guns are entirely illegal in Baltimore City as well as Ocean City. Spring-assisted knives are illegal in Ocean City.
Any sort of assisting, even like one of those little nubs that help you just flick it out, that's illegal.
Yeah, so you have to be very careful about what you're carrying and whether it's illegal or not. And obviously it's concealability, because a lot of times you can't carry any type of concealed weapon in whatever jurisdiction you're in. So you want to check with your local police or whoever your local law enforcement agency is. So that brings us to our local law enforcement, and we don't typically get into political discussions here on USTASC TV, but we're going to today just to touch base on the anti-police issue and the BLM and all that stuff that's going on. My personal opinion is, and I'm not detracting from what protesters are thinking, because obviously they have a specific agenda, which most protests do, that they're trying to achieve. However, less than 0.5% of the police officers in the United States are fired or terminated. For anything, and that's not a worldwide phenomenon. There's places overseas where police officers are terminated left and right, and it's not a conspiracy. It's not like the world is purposely not firing police officers, but it just goes to show you that 99.5% of the police officers are out there doing their jobs and doing their jobs well. It's a tough profession. They have to work all kinds of hours. I know when I was with one particular agency, we rotated every week. So we were on days a week, evenings a week, and then midnights a week, and then back to days. We saw all kinds of crazy stuff. People shot, stabbed. I've had people die in front of me. It's a high-stress job, and it's really a thankless profession, unfortunately. And it's something that us as the general citizenry take for granted. So we, sleep tight in our beds at night, and while other people are out there defending us, and that's horrible. The bottom line is police officers should be given the same, if not more, respect than the military service. In my opinion, they are the protection domestically of our citizenry. So even though you see an outpouring of support for the military, which you absolutely should. Again, they're protecting our rights and liberties as well as our freedom worldwide, and getting killed in the line of duty. But then again, so are police officers. So I think that they're on equal footing, and I think it's a ridiculous assumption to cast off police officers and think that all cops are bad, and they're not doing their jobs, or they're doing their jobs improperly, and so on and so forth. Because I can tell you from experience, if you screw up as a cop, they will do an internal investigation. And if you are culpable for something, they will nail you to the wall. Yeah,
I think one of the problems with the protesting today is that, people, they know they have the right to protest, as they absolutely do, but their right is to peacefully protest. And I think that they don't necessarily know where to draw that line. And then when police officers show them where that line is, then they get upset that the police are overstepping some sort of boundary when they're not. They're taking the law as exactly as it is.
Well, and the other thing about it is people these days don't, a lot of people, not necessarily everybody, but people don't necessarily think that they need to follow the law. I mean, it's almost like it's a voluntary, I don't feel like doing it today.
Right.
Look, it is what it is. It's not, these laws were enacted, most of them many years ago to protect society from itself, basically. I saw an interview with this guy that owns a coffee shop, very leftist kind of guy that owned a coffee shop. So I think in Colorado or somewhere, that he was a anarchist. He claimed he was an anarchist, and people truly do not know what anarchy is. Anarchy is a complete lack of laws and
Complete
law
shutdown of
enforcement.
government.
And complete shutdown. And you know what happens? And by the way, I'm not a particular big fan of the government, okay? I mean, I believe in civil liberties. But you know what ends up happening is a total degradation of society. Society totally falls apart. I mean, a total disassembly. Look at any natural disaster, look at any riots. That's what anarchy is. It's not, I'm going to do whatever I want without the police interference. You know what I mean? That's just not what it is. So I find that kind of amusing. But anyway, so I think, honestly, we should support our law enforcement, especially our local law enforcement and law enforcement nationwide. I think it's terrible what they're going through right now. And, and unfortunately, I think it's not going to necessarily get worse, better. It's only going to get worse. So, in any event, you have a product that you want to demonstrate? Is that
Sure,
correct?
yeah. So this is a gun case by Hornady. It has a nice backup battery inside, as well as it can be plugged into a wall. It can be mounted into a nice secured space, like a counter or something like that. And this is a gun safe for if you have children in the house, or if you have multiple people living in the house that aren't of age yet, or perhaps just aren't allowed to handle the weapon right away. But what I love about this product the most is that it comes with several different locking key mechanisms. So you've got your hard keys, you've got your key fobs, as well as wristbands. And especially if you wake up in the middle of the night and someone is breaking into your home, you don't need to fiddle with the combination. You don't need to bring up this key and try to figure out which way it goes in when someone's breaking into your home. You just have this the key fob or the wristband on your wrist at all times. You throw it over top of the little insignia, and then you have it. Your gun is popped right out, right where you need it, perfectly. It's not sitting in some sort of weird lock where the lock loops into the top of the ejection port and through the into the mag well and whatnot. So I have a box similar to this. It isn't as cool with all the fobs and whatnot, but most certainly if I'm having friends over for drinks or something, I'm a responsible gun owner, I'm going to lock my gun away when we're drinking. I definitely recommend getting some sort of a lock box of some sort for those occasions, or as I said before, if you have children in the house, you don't want anyone who's unauthorized to use that handgun or weapon to do so.
Well, and the nice thing about that is I like the fact that it comes with that silicone bracelet. So I mean, it's just like any, I wear a Fitbit, so it's just like any other silicone bracelet that you get, but it's got a built-in RFID. So when you tap it to the sensor, it'll automatically pop open. So if you wear this all the time, you just, again, it's easily accessible. It does have a keypad on it, which you can use in an emergency, but it also has those options. So pretty neat. We sell it on our website actually, as well as many other self-defense products. All these products here at www.USTASC.com. And I also brought some other products just to kind of show you, kind of neat. This is our vaporizer stun gun. It looks like a vaporizer. I know that we have some people here that use vapes. This does not vape. It looks like a vaporizer, but it's actually a stun gun. It does pretty much the exact same thing of the baton I showed you. And then, just for people that want something a little extra on their firearm, we have these lights and laser combinations. So easily designate your target. And of course, if you're going to designate your target with a laser, you obviously want to see what your target is. So it's got a built-in flashlight, and this mounts to the accessory rail of most of firearms that are produced today.
Yeah, if you have any firearm that's got a 1913 Picatinny rail, it's going to fit that. And I condone having a light on every gun that you own. Like if it's a shotgun, it's a rifle, it's a handgun, whatever, you put a flashlight on it. It's the best accessory that there is of all other accessories. Because at any given time, you know, there's at least 12 hours of the day that doesn't have bright, sunshiny light, so you're going to need something to identify a threat. Because the last thing you want to do is, you know, wake up in the middle of the night and point your gun at your child or, you know, somebody else who is supposed to be in that house.
Well, and also bear in mind, if you're going to use a light, you also have to have night sights or a laser designator. So, you know, obviously if you're illuminating your target, you still have to find your sights. So the nice thing about night sights, which we also sell, is that they glow 24/7. They have a radioactive substance in them, tritium that glows. So, but all this stuff's available on our website. So first thing we demonstrated, that John demonstrated, that safe runs about $250. It's available on our website for order, the pop-up safe. This is actually another safe that we have. It doesn't look like a safe, obviously. It's called a concealment safe. It looks like a shelf. It runs $300 if you buy it from us. You can also order it on your website if you want to install it yourself. If you want us to come out and install it, it's $400, but it's only $300 if you buy it on our website. So it doesn't look like a safe, obviously, but it also has RFID. So it comes with 2 credit cards as well as a key fob. And the neatest thing is it comes with a portable RFID that you can glue on the bottom of the thing. So here we've glued it on the bottom of this candle holder, and as you can see, it just blends in completely with the shelf. The cool thing about it is when you run the RFID across the sensor, it pops open and gives you access to your firearm or other valuables that are concealed within the safe. So really cool tool. Notice how it is open. It's got a lot of space inside. It's got about 2 inches of depth. So comes with this rubberized padding for your firearm or for you can put keys, money, what have you in here, easily accessible. And then again, once it closes up, looks like normal safe. Last thing we wanted to talk about is, you know, obviously terrorism is in the news a lot these days because of Brussels, and you know, it's my opinion that things are just going to get worse. They're not going to get any better. So how do you recognize a suspected bomber? Well, obviously, the bottom line is use common sense. You know, you have to take into account what's going on where you're at. You can't just, unfortunately these days, wander around with your head stuck in your cell phone, especially at an event or, you know, anywhere else where a lot of people are gathering these days. So, you know, if you're at an event, there's a person carrying around a large backpack, or, you know, some type of bag that looks particularly out of place, leaves that bag somewhere. I mean, obviously that's a cause for concern, and I would report it to your closest law enforcement officer. Second thing is, you know, a lot of people bring up suicide vests. Suicide vests can be made out of any plate carrier or really just anything that resembles
a fishing vest.
Yeah, a fishing vest or anything of that nature, or anything lower tech than that. And all they need is a detonator and explosives and shrapnel. So I mean,
and a detonator can be anything from a car door opener to a cell phone. It does
right.
Anything that sends an electrical signal.
So now that it's warming up, obviously you're not going to see a lot of people, or shouldn't see a lot of people, walking around in bulky jackets. So if you see someone walk around in a bulky jacket, especially around the public, public event, obviously notify a law enforcement officer so they can stop. You know, it may be nothing. Obviously, the guy might not be a terrorist. He might just be cold, or wear it for fashion reasons or what have you. But obviously, it's still something that, you know, needs to be checked on, especially if you notice something underneath of his jacket that seems to look like a bulky. And when I mean bulky, I don't mean a regular armor vest. I mean something that has some weight to it.
Some sort of awkward shape, something that doesn't naturally look natural underneath of a coat. But like he said earlier, you know, you should use common sense of like your area as well. Especially if we're talking like the DC area, you guys have the metro. So obviously that's an area that, you know, if you think logically, would be a great place for a terrorist attack, right?
Well,
so I mean, that's common sense. Any place where a grand amount of people are going to be. So take caution when going to places like that. Just know that that is a prime target.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw what happened on the trains. Last but not least is demeanor and indexing. A lot of people, when they are up to suspicious activity or nefarious, activity, they will exhibit a specific type of demeanor. They might not maintain eye contact. They might have a nervous look to them, sweating profusely. And lastly is indexing. If you see a person that's indexing the same thing multiple times, such as they keep going in their pocket, especially if they're carrying a weapon. Lots of times you'll see police officers, and they do it as it's actually a psychological response, that they'll index their weapon multiple times. So you'll see them standing around in a convenience store or whatever, and you'll see the police officer rest his hand on his gun or brush his elbow against the gun. And that's psychologically reassuring himself that his weapon is still in the holster. Well, in the same sense, a lot of criminals do this when they're carrying a gun. They index their weapon a lot to make sure that it's not falling out of their pants or of their jacket or what have you. And a lot of criminals don't use holsters. They either stick their gun in their pants in their dip, which is right in their crotchal area, or they'll put it in their jacket. So they have to continuously
index. They don't have that
index
security of a holster, so they do have to index, make sure it's still there.
Right. So just food for thought. Again, if you see some of these things, not necessarily, obviously, the guy's terrorist or armed, but it should be brought to your attention, and if you feel it's unnecessary, bring it to a law enforcement officer's attention in the area so that he can check it out.
Yeah, generally speaking, don't be blind, don't be a sheep.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm Evan Emness, CEO of USTASC.
And I'm John Glover.
Thanks for joining us.